Hey guys, Nick here, and today we're diving into a multifaceted exploration of why you shouldn't buy property in the USA. From the rise of BRICS to the potential of cryptocurrencies, the challenges in the USA, and the booming opportunities in international property. I'm going to be covering it all. But before we start, it's important to set this video up with the foundation so you understand everything. So let's buckle up. This is going to be a detailed and insightful journey, and I'm excited to see what kind of comments I stir up. So first, let's talk about the economy and the world and what is happening right now in front of us. In recent years, the world has witnessed a seismic shift in the economic landscape driven by the rise of China and the BRICS alliance. That's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. A total of 3.27 billion people live in these 5 countries, representing 41.13% of the world's population. China and India are the most populous countries in the world and thus have by far the largest share. The BRICS countries also generate 25.77% of all global gross domestic products. This shift is not just a fleeting trend, but a calculated and strategic move that has been in the making for decades. At the time of this recording, there are 40 other countries that want to join. And that's not something to sleep on right now, especially if you're an investor. BRICS is really about China's role in providing emergency loans to various countries during the crises of 2020 and 2021. China's bailout amounts remained low until 2015, when they shot up to a total of $100 billion over 2 decades. These loans work through liquidity swaps with the Chinese central bank, where $40 billion of the outstanding balances were located as of 2021. Around 2015, when these loans started to shoot upward, BRICS began to take shape. China's plan to take over the Western world economy started in seriousness around this time with the formation of BRICS and planning years before that. These loans, although initially presented in an emergency aid, have often rolled over, creating a dependency that aligns these nations more closely with China. This practice has been likened to a first one's free sales technique where countries became hooked on the Chinese support. The increase in these loans coincides with the formation and strengthening of the BRICS alliances, particularly since 2015. This alliance is working towards creating a common currency to counter the dominance of the US dollar. Recent headlines confirm that India and China are stepping up in the challenges in the US dollar's supremacy, and Russia is leading the BRICS in working to create new currency. China's strategy also includes securing resources like rare commodities and gold, positioning itself to have the power to disrupt Western bond markets if it chooses to do so. This is part of a broader plan to take over the West economically, a plan that has been around since 2015. The implications of these developments are profound. An all-out economic war has been declared on the US dollar and the euro. While this may not lead to immediate consequences, the next few years are likely to see a drastic change in the economic landscape in both America and in Europe. But it's been positioned like this happens all the time, and we go through phases, bull markets and bear markets. So we're just going through a phase like 2008. Well, I'm here to tell you that the U.S. situation is dire. Inflation is rampant, and the bonds that once backed everything up are now the problematic asset. 2008, we had a recession, but now the problematic asset is those bonds. So what's the way out of this? Selling our assets. And what are the assets the USA has left? National parks. I really don't see how we could get out of this any other way, in my personal opinion. The wealthy and the central banks are already hedging against these changes by buying gold and other assets like international real estate as protection. The message is clear. Big changes are coming, and preparation is key. This isn't about fear, but about understanding the shifting tides and positioning oneself wisely. As we consider these global economic shifts, we must also look at the innovations and partnerships happening in the world of cryptocurrencies. This brings us to the intriguing collaboration between Elon Musk and the crypto world, particularly with XRP and XLM. Elon's acceptance of these cryptocurrencies for various services, including space-related activities, is a testament to the growing influence and integration of digital currencies in our daily lives. The world is indeed shifting, and these changes in finance, technology, and global alliances are shaping a future that promises to be forth challenging and full of opportunities. Now, that leads me into my next point. We're talking about 2 specific cryptocurrencies, XRP and XLM, and the role that they play in the grand scheme of things. But that's not all. We're also exploring the influence of one of the most visionary entrepreneurs of all time, Elon himself, and how he's intertwined with these digital assets. Some people love him, some people hate him, but I'm just focused on what's going on. But let's talk about XRP and XLM. These two cryptocurrencies are more than just digital coins. They represent a shift in how we think about money and financial transactions. If you think crypto's a joke or listen to the news, you're wrong. These banks are buying up all the crypto technologies, telling us one thing and doing another. The United States is not dumb, but they're going to get their wealth first as a position of power. Countries like El Salvador and Central African Republic, or CAR, use Bitcoin as their legal tenders now. It's coming. The USA is launching CBCDs. Go to the Federal Reserve Bank website. This is a little different, but I'm not going to get into it in this video, but it's shifting right in front of us. XRP, with its interledger, aims to connect banks all around the world, facilitating seamless transfers of fiat currencies like the US dollar and maybe this new world currency with BRICS. It's targeted at businesses and financial institutions with a market cap of $25.7 billion and a maximum supply of 100 billion coins. I personally think this is in its early stages, but 25 billion is no joke. On the other hand, Stellar, or XLM, is designed for those who don't have access to traditional banking structures. There are lots of places that don't have access to banks like you or me do. With a market cap of only 3.1 billion and a maximum supply of 50 billion coins, Stellar is focused on cross-border transfers for the unbanked population. Now, here's where things get interesting. Elon, who is also from South Africa, the man behind Tesla and SpaceX, has been publicly associated with both XRP and XLM. He's shown support for Ripple, the company behind XRP, especially during the Ripple SEC lawsuit. He's even found to own over 17 million XRP through specific wallets, and he just renamed Twitter to X, as well as had an interview the other day talking about how X could be large enough to be half of the global world economy if done correctly. But what does this mean? Why is Musk involved with these cryptocurrencies, and what does it signify for the future? Elon Musk's connection to XRP and XLM is more than just a casual interest. It's a strategic alignment with technologies that are reshaping the financial landscape. Musk's potential use for XRP and XLM for this Everything app and other ventures is a clear indication of where the world is heading. Someone like Elon has the resources and the funds to make things like this happen. XRP and XLM are not just digital currencies. They are tools for financial inclusion, efficiency, and eco-friendliness. They represent a new way of thinking about money, transcending borders and traditional banking limitations. But here's the twist. While XLM may be accepted as a method of payment for Musk's ventures, XRP could be the one facilitating these payments. This dual utilization of XRP and XLM illustrates the complexity and innovation in the crypto space. So now let's address the elephant in the room, the media's portrayal of cryptocurrencies. While some narratives paint crypto as a risky or negative venture, the reality is far from nuanced. The development of central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs, the rise of these cryptocurrencies like XRP and XLM, and the involvement of influential figures like Musk signal a broader acceptance of digital assets. This shift is happening against a backdrop of economic challenges such as high inflation. As traditional fiat currencies face instability, cryptocurrencies offer an alternative, decentralized option, and the fact that all these countries are ditching the US dollar. I'll make it easier for you to understand. I'm a huge golf fan. Look at what Live Golf did to the PGA. They literally gathered a bunch of players, got them together and said, "We'll pay you more money, come over and join us." People got mad and called the players traitors, and even the PGA kicked them out. Now what? The PGA lost the upper hand and was forced to partner with Live and adjust. Look at Uber and taxis, or hotels and Airbnbs. Those are on smaller micro levels compared to this. This is a huge macro level thing happening with more population than the USA combined. It's a global scale, and everyone is sitting here listening to garbage about Trump and Biden and Trudeau in Canada. Things that really don't matter. I bring this up to drive awareness that what we have been familiar with for generations is changing at an exponential pace, and it's important to be aware of all of this and be resourceful for one another. And also to help you figure out what's your plan. I live in Mexico, and when I moved myself from the USA, I started paying close attention to this stuff because the rest of the world relies on the USA and is going through some hard times right now. Let's take a moment to discuss something that's often on everyone's mind but rarely talked about openly. Again, I'm not here to stir the pot or take sides, but I do want to touch on something fundamental that's affecting our society, both in the USA and here in Mexico. It's just two different ways that it's happening. You see, I grew up in the USA, and I've seen firsthand how values can shape a nation. There are three things that I believe are crucial in life: family, God, and money. But the way these values are prioritized can make all the difference. For the sake of time, I'm not going to dive deep in each, but I will say this. In the USA, it often feels like money takes the top spot. It's everything. The biggest thing is that Uncle Sam takes everything. It's very one-sided. It's just about everything involving money. It's just how it goes. Family comes next, but even that can be conditional. If a relationship goes sour, it's all about who gets what, who cheated on whom, and so on. And then at the bottom of the list, there's God. It's a hierarchy that, in my view, leads to a society where people are often in it for themselves and a huge lack of respect. Think about it like this. If you were my parents and put a box of cookies on the counter telling me I could only eat them when you said so, I'd find a way to sneak them without knowing. But if you told me I could eat as many as I wanted, I'd probably indulge for a few days and then lose interest. It's all about how values are presented and prioritized. Now, contrast that with what I've experienced living here in Mexico. The values are the same, but the order is different. Here, God is everything, family is sacred, something that you made vows for and honor, and money is important, but it's there to support the other two. It's a subtle shift, but it creates a profoundly different culture. If you don't believe me, just take a look at your Instagram Explore page. How many fights do you see? How many trivial arguments over money, politics, or personal scandals? How many half-naked women selling their bodies on OnlyFans? It's a reflection of a society where values are misaligned. But let's not get lost in the weeds here. This video isn't about pointing fingers or taking sides. It's about understanding the underlying values that shape our world and where to focus on investments based on where the world currently is and where it's going. In America, this misalignment of values leads to problems like inflation and corruption. Go back to the box of cookies example. I can go to any pharmacy here in Mexico and buy drugs, Percocet, ketamine, Valium, I don't know, any drug I really want, and so can anyone else. But their values are aligned by God is faith, family is everything, and the money supports that. So no one in their right mind would waste money by being selfish and not providing for their families because that's not what God wants for us. It's very simple. If you've been to this region of Mexico, or anywhere in Mexico for that matter, you will not find homeless people. You will find people living in huts who maybe don't have a lot of money, but the difference is that they're happy and they just live a different life than what you and I are familiar with. In the USA, we don't call it corruption though. We call it lobbying. It just sounds better, but it's a symptom of a deeper issue, a culture of greed where people are often out for themselves. Just recently, interest rates were adjusted. Anyone under a 620 credit score or something like that gets a better rate than those who did it right, who have been above a 720 credit score. Like, what? I did everything right, and all of a sudden, I get penalized by paying more interest on my mortgage because I did the right thing? In fact, I'm in the middle of losing my home in New York City. Why? Because the city of New York doesn't want to deal with homelessness on their dime. So they have tenant protection laws. My tenant hasn't paid rent since February, and the eviction process takes about a year. So it's my hard work and what I spend my whole life to buy and build comes down to a selfish law. Same for Airbnb in New York City, because the hotel industry lobbies the government to get after Airbnb hosts, and they found a loophole that says any stay under 28 days requires a special permit for a fire regress system. And if you don't have that, it's a $10,000 fine for locks on your bedroom doors from the Department of Buildings. But I get it. I'm not complaining. We all have the power to make a change in our lives, and how we accept the outcomes depicts where our next focus and success lies. And that doesn't need to be money. The same goes for how we all have the opportunity to use the resources available to us. ChatGPT, for instance, is smarter than any human on this planet by 1,000 times. There's really no excuse not to be self-taught at this time. And if you're watching this video, you have the resources available to make that change yourself as well. All I'm saying is that the order of values in America is money, family, and then God, leading to a culture of selfishness and greed. This trickles down to everyday interactions and the problems we see in society in the USA because everyone is bored and doesn't have something bigger to live for other than greed. And to be honest, we all have the power to change the world. And I think it's just a realignment of values that could help. Before you get bent out of shape, I'm also not saying that corruption doesn't exist elsewhere. Every country has its challenges. Look at Mexico. There's definitely corruption. They just blatantly put it out there, and I think that's a better way to do it. But the way values are prioritized can make a significant difference in how a society functions. So as we navigate these complex economic and political landscapes, let's not lose sight of what's truly important. Let's strive to align our values in a way that fosters community, compassion, and integrity, and that's the point of what I just said. Now, let's shift our focus to Mexico and how I truly believe that this country will be a huge player the next decade, according to everything I just explained. With companies like Ford, Tesla, Samsung, and Amazon investing in the country, Mexico's future lies in relocation or nearshoring. The trade disputes between the U.S. and China is a golden opportunity for Mexico, and its values of God, family, and money are aligned in the right order. Living in Mexico, I can tell you about the affordability, the growth, and the values that makes this area thrive. I bought a home here, and the returns are incredible. The affordability here is insane. We have a new airport and a train system coming that's going to skyrocket property values, and if you're looking for a safe spot to put money and invest, this is a great spot. I really, truly believe that Mexico is going to soar in the economy of the world. I'm not saying that you have to pack your bags and bounce from the USA or have an agenda to convince anyone. I'm just talking based on my personal experiences and data-driven logic analysis over the years. I believe that the USA wants to scare people that Mexico is dangerous, making inflation look like a temporary problem, locking people into thinking one way, but then going and doing the complete opposite. The values I explained earlier are the reasons for so much inflation and the issues that we have in the United States. But I think I ranted long enough, and it's important to come to the realization that we're witnessing a huge shift in our world. I believe it's important to be cognizant of what is going on and be on the lookout to diversify. The USA's position is not good, but places like Mexico are thriving. The alignment of values, the focus on family and God, and the hard work ethic are driving success. It's like Mexico is that kid that you remember from school as a child who was always quiet, and then all of a sudden he went off and kept to himself and became a super successful person. That's how I view Mexico after 4 years of living here. I encourage anyone, including investors who are watching this, to check out Mexico and pay close attention to what's happening around the whole world. It's a crazy time right now for everyone, and I hope I can continue making more content like this for you guys. And until then, take it easy.